Hey everyone, Zen Gaming 101 here. Today I got a bit of another shorter video for you guys today. This time it's going to be a bit more on the live commentary side, more than the regular narration I do, with probably some small edits here and there. But anyways, today I'm going to be going ahead and tier listing all the 13 playable maps on the Goonstation edition of SS13 as of 2025. Of course, as with any other tier list video, this is my personal list and my opinions of what I think each map is tiered at. I'm about 75 to 80 rounds played on Goonstation, and I think I have a good grasp of what makes a good map or a good station. And the things I'm going to be looking at when I'm tier listing these are going to be the aesthetics, how the map looks, how beginner friendly they are, getting around the station itself, what playing some departments are like on the map, and just some quality of life things. Also, keep in mind, I'm pretty new to the antagonist role myself, so if I don't mention anything antagonist specific thing to a map, that's just due to me not really knowing much about it, so apologies for that. In my opinion, there's no real such thing as a bad map or bad station when it comes to Goonstation, so the D tier may not ever even get used or touched, but I decided to keep it there anyways when I made the tier list. But hey, if you want to go ahead and put something in D tier yourself, I'm going to be going ahead and putting the link to this tier list in the description below, so if you want to go ahead and share and make your own list, you can. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing a lot of the comments and seeing the list and seeing what you guys have to say. Also, if there's a specific section in the video you would like to jump to, there's going to be timestamps in the timeline as well. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off. We're going to go ahead and be talking about our first map here, which will be Atlas. Alright, so Atlas. First thing I want to talk about is the map aesthetic. As you can see, Atlas is a very large star cruiser with thrusters at the back, one for engineering and one for science. And there's a small satellite array here. And the command center is located at the very top of the ship here. I really like maps with a ship design. It fits very well into the whole Space Station 13 vibe and keeps everything on theme. Next, let's talk about getting around the map. So you spawn here, you come out of this little cryo chamber here. Navigating isn't too difficult. The gray little tiles help you move along and it's pretty clear where you can go. I do wish the map had some signs or legends to indicate where you're going, but the color-coded departments stand out a lot here, like the hydroponics here being marked in green and the science below it being marked in purple. There's also a low-key bar here, which I do wish it was a little bigger, but I really do like the little small window area where you can kind of enjoy drinks connected to the main area of the bar as well. Like I said, the bar and kitchen are on the bit of a smaller side of things, but it works well. Speaking of which, I'm going to be talking about some departments now. I'm not going to cover all of them, just some highlights from the map. Let's go ahead and get started with janitorial over here. One thing I really like about Atlas is when playing as a janitor, there's a little conveyor belt here that throws away trash. I generally do love this little thing, and it's funny as hell just yeeting trash into space. I really wish more janitorial stations had this little thing. It's just really cool. Anyways, let's go ahead and go up here. Alright, so next we got this little church over here for the chaplain. Not every map or station needs to have a grand cathedral, but I think it works really well here because it reminds me of like a Navy cruiser having its own little small chapel, which makes sense. You also have what I like to call here this little body eater for caskets for funerals, and again, I think it's just really funny. Down here in this little HOP area, it's fine. When I play HOP, it's definitely not the smallest office we have for it, but there definitely is a lot smaller, and we'll get to that later. Now, I really don't play medical, so I won't be talking about this too often, but one thing I like to say about this medical area in Atlas in particular is that it feels a lot more like a small clinic office than a proper cruiser hospital. The way it's laid out is a very squared format and also just very compact. When I think of Goonstation med centers, I imagine these big areas of the map that either just are for science or medical or combined, and we really don't get that here since it's not connected to science at all because the ranching station like sits right in between both of them. It's not my favorite thing, but I get it. Speaking of rancher hydroponics, if you see my neon video, you'll know I think this Bondis hydroponics setup just sucks. I called it a tube, and I really meant that. If you really take a good look at it, especially with especially with a full team inside, it gets way too crowded with the mister and the UV light, like UV lamps and everything else. It's really just packed in there, and the space just becomes a total mess. Now, if there's only like 2 people, it's manageable, but if it's a whole squad, it's just unbearable to work in, and honestly, it's one of the worst hydroponic labs out of all the maps. Oh, by the way, I also just want to quickly mention, I do like this little pocket here, like next to science. That's just like a little break room. I've seen a lot of crewmates hang out here, and I think it's cool. Now, one of the biggest complaints I've always seen about this map is the lack of places to hide for antagonists, and if you really look at the layout, There really isn't that many maintenance halls or spots you could really pull off anything sneaky. I'm pretty sure that's a big reason why this map was recently replaced by Neon, which we'll get into later, since that map was clearly designed for that gameplay in mind. So with that being said, even though this map isn't playable anymore and they only stuck around for a bit before getting replaced, which I think was for the better, I don't think it was a bad map, and it still has some cool features, like the occasional times where the station will show up on a planet instead of space, plus a little few interesting details on the inside the station itself. But overall, I think it definitely will be a missed map for sure, but not much more than that. So that's why I think it's going to be going for the low B tier. I think low B tier is a good one to put this one in. Alright, now that we have that there, let's go ahead and move on to our next map, which will be another ship theme map, Clarion. Alrighty, so Clarion. Once again, aesthetically, I absolutely love the Star Cruiser theme, and I think this map is probably the best map at pulling off that ship theme than any other map. There's like a lot of symmetry going on here, especially with the colorful thrusters in the bottom and the satellite arrays, and instead of being the traditional bridge and command center at the very top, you've got this amazing tabletop setup for Dungeoneers. Honestly, this is the best quote-unquote nerd dungeon I've seen on any map, period. Also, yes, this is an absolute call to action to get more people playing syndicates and stations on Goonstation. It's just fun. Anyways, as soon as you leave the spawn, which is here and another cryo chamber, you'll see the next best thing about this map, which are these directional floor signs here. I honestly think every map should have these. They're incredibly useful and helpful for beginners learning their way around, plus the layout itself is just super easy to understand on Clarion. There's also like a lot more to do here, like a pool and a boxing area. The bar is pretty big too, with a carpeted floor and a stage we could use for like singing or doing stand-up, which is great for RP. Plus there's other rooms and offices that staff assistants can use to do whatever they want with. The entire left side is taken up by medical and the right is taken up by science, which works for the symmetry of the map, and I'm totally fine with it. And then you got engineering down here at the bottom with mining right next door to it. By the way, bacon and eggs on spawn for miners is honestly the best thing any miner can ever ask for. I think it's the only map that does this, and it fucking rocks on here. I just made a pun on accident. Anyways. Two things that do bother me though are I think command feels a little bit too cramped in the middle, so it looks a bit messy. And I felt like this could have been organized just a little bit better. Also in the kitchen, the monkey machine and the meat hook are a little too far apart for my taste, but this could be me just being spoiled with other maps, so who knows. Alright, let's go ahead and get back to this tier list. So overall, I absolutely love this map. It's great for beginners and veterans alike. A lot could happen here, from wild antag moments to some fun RP. I know it might sound biased, but it's probably my favorite map on Goonstation. So yeah, early or not, this one's getting a resounding S tier for me. Alright, so next map is going to be a classic. We got Cogmap. So, welcome to Cogmap. I've seen some people also call this map Pogmap for the simple reason that it's a pretty good map. There's not much to complain about, but there's some neat things about it we could talk about. Now, one of the first things you'll do when you get here is you'll spawn in arrivals. This is the first map out of our tier list that doesn't have a spawning right at a cryo chamber. As soon as you step out and head down, you'll see the word arrivals on the little top there. What I like to do sometimes at the round start is sit here as like a salesman or like some shit like that and just fuck with people trying to come in. It's a little fun RP thing I do. Anyways, when you go straight down, you'll see the bar. Now this bar is the most important part of this whole map because essentially it's the central hub for the entire map. Going left or right from here leads into dead end points of the station. The right going all the way to QM, and the left ending at hydroponics. I'll show you more of this in a minute. The bar itself is pretty spacious and has a good vibe with it. And down at the bottom, there is some slot machines, which I'll admit, I've spent a little bit more time than I care to admit. As soon as you go to the left, you'll see a gym, an arcade, and a pool. Keep going, and then you'll find security and command. By the way, this is probably my favorite HOP office of any station, as it's pretty convenient to find. I love working here, and when I'm not busy, I kind of walk around the area. A little further down, you'll see two stands where people can set up their own little shops. Most of the time when I'm playing on Cogmap, there's always something going on here. So shout out to all those people who actually make shops here and give this place a little bit of life. If you keep heading down, you'll find a combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, with medical and science being placed side by side. This is what I meant earlier when I was talking about how Atlas felt like more of a clinic, especially compared to the size of this place. The rest of the right side past MedSci is all engineering, and at the end of the hall is QM. If you head down south from there, that's where the escape shuttle shows up. I actually like the way the shuttle bay is set up here, because security could do some checkpoints to make sure nothing crazy gets into the escape shuttle, and I kind of like the situations and the options it has there. Back at the bar, if you go right instead of left, you'll see what I think is like a small clinic or like a little clinic room. I'm still not really sure what that is. And next to that, you'll see a huge church with a mini aquarium inside. I really like how it's like steel stools instead of like a traditional church pew. I think it's kind of funny. And then past the church, there's a pretty sizable hydroponics area, complete with even like a check-in desk in the front, which is new to me. I can't believe I never realized that's like a check-in desk. Anyways. So the thing about Cogmap is that the aesthetic itself is just a standard space station. There's like not much going on there, but it's still well designed and kind of has a nice layout. But while there's a lot happening around the map and plenty to do, it can be a little overwhelming if you're new. Thankfully, the layout is pretty straightforward, so you can get a hang of the map within probably a round or so, especially once you realize the map has some dead end points at QM. And you know, speaking of QM, maybe someone can answer this for me, but I'm not really sure what's up with the map's obsession with conveyor belts. I can understand these inside of QM here and here, but I'm not really sure what these two rooms up here are even supposed to be for. Maybe it's supposed to be an escape route for security or something. Again, I'm probably just gonna need someone to explain this to me because I don't know what's happening here. I haven't played QM on this map yet, so if I'm going to have to actually fix packages that get clogged up there, I think I'm gonna have a fucking aneurysm. Aside from all that, after playing on this map for quite some time, I've come to really like it. Once you learn your way around the station, you start to really see its potential, and there's a lot you can do here. I think the map could use a few small touch-ups, mainly to fix a few things and maybe add some signs to help us or newer players, but there's a reason why this map gets played so often, and for that, I'm thinking a solid high A tier. Alright, so next up is Cogmap's sister station, Cogmap 2. Alright, so with Cogmap 2, if I were to spend time on this like I did with Cogmap 1, I think we'll be here all day, so I'm not going to do that here. Now, generally, I think Cogmap 2 is the biggest map on Goonstation. I could be wrong on this. I think Nadir runs it for its money, and it's pretty close. But I'm pretty sure it's Cogmap 2, but again, I could be wrong. And if I'm going to be honest, I really don't like this map. And I'm not sure if that's a hot take or not, but from what I looked at on the stats, it doesn't really seem like it, because it seems like Cogmap 1 gets played way more than Cogmap 2 does. And I mean, if you just take a close look at it, this map is an absolute fucking mess. Navigating this place as a new player, I'm sure you're bound to get lost, especially with the lack of signs and the color coding being all over the place. But here, let me explain some things I do like about the map before I dig into it more. For one, I do like how the arrival shuttle mimics the escape shuttle, with its own security, command, and medical sections in it. The AI chamber is also massive and looks pretty cool. The chapel got a huge upgrade too, with tons of rooms and an actual church complete with actual pews this time instead of those fucking stools. The bar is also pretty big now too, sporting with some tables with red CRT TVs on them. Okay, that's kind of weird. And probably the best hydroponics lab of all the Goonstation. It's huge in size with a giant ass tree right in the middle of botany, and a pretty big ranch where you could just raise your chickens, with even an arcade next to it. Honestly, playing botany is really great on this map, I'll give it that. Oh, and the command and bridge look pretty good. I like the HOP office with the card reader, paper holder and stuff, and that's really all I have to say good about Cogmap 2. Listen, I respect them trying to get rid of dead ends on the maps by letting you finally walk around the whole map, but the whole map is just gigantic. Like, there's two different janitorial offices, one on the south side, and a smaller one way up here in the north. And catering? Like, huh? Where? You mean here at the kitchen? Oh, and also, having engineering and mining being on completely different sides of the map of each other is just really, really cursed to me. Oh, speaking of the engineering side in QM, the conveyor belts are back, and oh boy, there's a lot of conveyor belts. There's a lot of them. Okay, that's really all I'll really say on Cogmap 2. I feel like it tried too much to add a lot of different and bigger things, but it ended up just turning the place into a huge labyrinth. I think it's going to be a low C tier for me on this one. The only real thing saving this from D tier is that some departments like hydroponics and some parts of science are genuinely awesome to work in, and if you're an antagonist, there's a ton of room to cause some crazy shit in this entire map. Like, you have a lot of room to do a lot of fun chaos. And alright, now that big hurdle out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to our next map, which will be Donut 2. Okay, it's going in S tier. Okay, let me explain. Donut 2, like Clarion, is a great station for first-time players. Like, first off, having the arrivals area right next to the escape shuttle is a great way to teach players where they need to return to at the end of a shift. Also, like Clarion, there are helpful wall signs and floor signs to help guide new players around. Although, there are not as many of them as on Clarion, but that's completely fine because Donut 2 is a much simpler map to navigate rather than something like Cogmap 2. I mean, just look at it. It's a donut. The station is a complete circle because it's literally a giant donut in space. How could you get much simpler than that, really? Now there's a few things I want to mention before we get into the big thing about this map. First, I love the sprite work in the bar. I love how the stairs make you feel like you're walking down into the place, and it's a great touch. Also, shout out to the fortune teller machine and the slot machine, really nice additions. The next thing is the church having its own funeral room next to the main room, with a casket yeeter right inside of it, so it's pretty peak. Next, in the janitor's office, you have this cute little clean hands save lives sign. I think this is great. And again, just like in the map Clarion, Donut 2 feeds its miners. Maybe not with eggs and bacon, but with sandwiches and sugar cookies. Fucking tasty either way, I say. Now, when you look really closely at the map, you'll see all the staples here. Medical, security, engineering, hydroponics. But there's something missing on this donut. A certain purple sprinkle. And if you still haven't caught on yet, there's no science lab on the station. So how does your science team perform science when there's nowhere to science? Well, I'll tell you where to go. To your very own science substation, located just right off the main station itself. This honestly fucking rules. Having to take a shuttle to reach the science station might be like a small thing, but I absolutely love it. Having a station completely free of anyone else but just me and my fellow nerds almost killing each other is something I wouldn't have any other way on this map. I think my only real complaint on this map is that when you're playing head of personnel, your office is a little lower than the rest of command, but honestly, that's just a nitpick. This is still an S tier station for me, no question. Now let's move on to Donut 3, the sister station of Donut 2. Let's see how it compares up. Now I'm not sure about you guys, but Donut 3 kinda looks like a fucked up donut compared to its sister station, huh? Jokes aside, I think Donut 3 is a pretty good map, but it does fall into some of the same things as Cogmap 2 did, but not nearly as bad. One of the biggest disappointments right off the bat is that Donut 3 doesn't have any of the maps or signs for newer players, unlike Donut 2, and I think it's a damn shame. And granted, I know Donut 2's signs weren't really a game changer, but I think it was still nice to have them around. Thankfully though, it's still a fairly easy map to navigate since you already know you're going around in a circle because it's still a donut at the end of the day. Just like Cogmap 1, the bar is going to be your main central hub, and wow did they supersize the shit out of this place. It's fucking huge. Same goes for the church nearby as well. Like I said before, it falls into the same themes as Cogmap 2, they just kind of make everything bigger. For example, look at security on Donut 2, and now look at Donut 3. Like damn. But then weirdly enough, they actually downsized Botany, but they expanded the ranching area by adding more dirt into it, kind of making it feel bigger. Like, what? At least the departments aren't really separated, and most of them are pretty tightly knit together. Science is back on the donut itself now, but with a much bigger lab. And with this weird containment zone thing attached to it, I'm still really not sure exactly what this is. The HOP office is small, but it has this really funny like DMV line barrier thing, which I think is kind of funny. Oh, I also want to mention a thing I really like about this map, and it's at the arrival shuttle. Not only does it have a cryopod inside the shuttle bay, but there's also this LGBTQ+ locker with pride jumpsuits in it. So yeah, that fucking rocks. Speaking of new jumpsuits, there's also a clothing store on the station now, which is kinda neat. And just like in Donut 2, they know how to keep their miners fed. This time, we got sandwiches and grilled cheese. Ah, the variety. Oh, something I just figured out. If you want to go swimming for some reason, you're gonna have to go to this, rock pole station kind of thing. Kind of a weird choice, but whatever. Let's go ahead and go back here. Like I said, Donut 3 overall is a good map. I wish they kept things I really liked about Donut 2, but I enjoyed myself on this map the few times I already played on it, and I can easily say it's a good map. I just like Donut 2 more. Sorry. It's going right to the top of B tier for me. Alright, so now that we're all out of donuts, let's see what the map Kondaru places on our tier list. Alright, welcome to Kondaru. At first glance, it might seem like a big and complex map, but surprisingly, it's quite simple. And if this does count as a big map, then this is exactly how you want to make one right. When you spawn, you'll come out of the cryo chamber here. And come on, you already know how I feel about the directional floor signs, so I won't go too much into that. But they're placing it around every corner, and it's great and helpful. The bar here is almost as big as Donut 3's, though not quite. It even has its own little stage, though I'll admit, I still think the bar in Donut 3 is probably the best bar of all of Goonstation. Though props for having an arcade next door and a pool close by. Next are the command and security centers, which are connected with each other, with also a pretty solid space for HOP here as well. If you head a bit further left, you'll find the engineering area, and while the engineering area isn't directly side by side with each other, it's vertically linked. I will say one small nitpick though that I have with the mining area, and that is I'm not sure why the quantum telescope is placed outside instead of inside. I feel like you could have just swapped the magnet control panel with the telescope and put the telescope inside and then remove the one outside, if you kind of get what I'm saying. I think it would work fine just like that. But, you know, that's just in my opinion. Also, feed your miners. Like, please, give us food. Anyways, nearby, there's a large space for medical and science, with a small janitorial office kind of tucked in there right in between. I haven't really mentioned this yet, but there's some stations that have a radio station room, usually called a news office or a radio lab. Most of the time, these radio labs are kind of located off-station, but on Kondaru, we actually have an on-station newsroom for radio DJs and reporters. Next door is kind of like a pod technician room, and then if you go all the way down to the left, you'll see a big church for the chaplain. And going down, you'll be back at the pool and cryo chamber. And pretty much that's Kondaru. Honestly, this is a pretty well-designed map with barely any flaws. The ease of navigation combined with the amount of things you could do for its size. Again, this is how you make a big map. I was originally going to give this an A tier, but now looking back at it, I think I'm putting this in the S tier. Right in between Clarion and Donut 2. Yeah, you know what, honestly? Yeah, I like that. S tier. Alright, so after that one, I think we have the map that apparently everyone forgets about, which is Mushroom. Okay, so Mushroom itself is a fairly simple map, so this won't take too long. When you spawn, you'll be placed into the northern side of the map, which features the same arrival shuttle as of Donut 3. Not that far off, you'll also have where the escape shuttle spawns, along with what seems to be like a little security booth. Going down, you'll be passing up where cargo and QM is, and the church. Also, real quick, why is there a doggo in there? Like, what the dog doing? Get him out of there. Heading further down, you'll find a room with another cryopod, and engineering to the left, and the AI core to the right. I also like how the engineering area has like this big giant E in the section. I think it's kind of cute. Going more down, you'll see where the hydroponics is, along with the medical and science areas. Weirdly enough though, the botany section is covered in snow for some reason. I'm guessing it's just like an aesthetic thing. And like I said, on the other side of that, there's a relatively small science area compared to like a very decently sized med bay. And then further left, you'll see the kitchen and bar area, and oh my god, we finally have a bathroom in the bar. Like, oh my god, what a miracle. Like, now people can vomit here instead of all over the damn floor. The bar also has like a chill room, I'm not really sure what to call this. And down here, while I really do like the kitchen layout, I absolutely hate the monkey machine placement. I might as well be painting the walls red myself and having monkeys just be working for me in the kitchen. So going more south, you'll reach the final section, which is the security and command center area. And now, let me introduce you to the smallest fucking head of personnel office ever. Like, look at this place. It's like a janitorial closet. Wait, no. Wait, it is actually a janitorial closet though, because it's the exact same as the janitorial office here. Like, what the fuck? It's like the exact size, like 6x6, but anyways, okay, alright. So aesthetically speaking, aside from the snow on the station, it really doesn't have much else going for it. It's a simple layout. I do appreciate the Donut 2 style floor signs, but like that map, it's so straightforward and it really doesn't need them. I mean, if anything, this map just feels a little bit boring, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just very basic. I don't think it's as bad as some people make it out to be, but I can see how some may have forgotten about this map. I think if I had to give it a rating, I think it would be like right here at the bottom of B tier for me, just like right behind Atlas. Alright, so now after that, we have 3 pretty big maps coming up, so let's go ahead and dive into our first C map, Nadir. Alright, so Nadir is the first 3 ocean maps we have today. This was the second one to come out, so basically it's kind of a larger evolution than the map Ocean, which we'll get to later. The first thing I want to point out is that unlike the other 2 ocean maps, the water surrounding the station is acidic, and it will damage you if you go outside without like protection gear, so you gotta be careful about that. Now we're going to start off with this absolutely gigantic arrival shuttle on the far left side on the map. It connects to both the south and the north main hallways. If you take a good look at the layout, the map follows like a grid-like format, and it kind of follows the same symmetry as like Clarion does. We'll go ahead and walk through everything, but we'll be starting here on the north side first. First we see the cryopod here, and then above it we see the gym and the pool, along with a little barbershop here, and you'll see where all of hydroponics is. Further inside the map, we see the entire top middle section of the station is basically just dedicated to the medical team now. And just below that, the entire central area of the station has been given to the science team too. To the right, we see where AI is held, and just below that, we see a church with a pretty large chaplain office in it. If we follow the floor signs here further to the right, we'll reach the escape shuttle area. And by the way, the escape shuttle on the map is just as massive as the arrival shuttle is. Also, the amount of red pressure doors you kind of have to get through to even get into the escape shuttle opens a lot of room for security. So when we return to the escape shuttle and head down south on the halls, the first thing we see above is a bar and kitchen with an arcade next door to it, just like in Kondaru. The kitchen itself is pretty small, but the backrooms are surprisingly good, especially with the monkey machine being right next to the meat hook, which is a really good quality of life thing. Below that, we see the janitorial area, then a mix of security and command. I really like how the HOP office is split between a courtroom and their actual office. I think this is such a cool way to use the space. Next to the HOP office, you have cargo and the rest of engineering that goes up vertically. Now, since there's no mining magnet because this isn't set in space as a miner, you have to basically head down into the depths of the trench, which is basically hell. A common thing that's going to be kind of popping up with these ocean maps is that mining has become way more dangerous, so you kind of just have to survive from what the hell is down there just to get a few rocks up back to the rock box. It definitely adds a whole new layer to the role. Then right below mining and the main engine, lastly, you have the radio lab on the station for all the radio hosts on Goonstation. And I know there's a few more smaller rooms here and there, but I think we have pretty much the gist of the map. All in all, Nadir is a great map, and it really took everything that Oshan offered and expanded on it greatly. Personally, I think it's a little too big for my taste, but overall, I love the design of the whole place, and I think it's a solid addition. And I think I'm going to be giving this map a solid A tier, though it's pretty close to being up an S though. Okay, so the next map is the newest map on the block, so let's go ahead and place up Neon on our tier list now. Okay, so now I'm not going to talk about Neon for too long here, since I already kind of made an entire video sharing my thoughts on the map, which you can watch here. But there are a few small things I do want to mention. Firstly, I really like how the miners have to use these sea pods to teleport into the trench, or I guess if you're in a hurry, you could just drive straight into the trench with one, like an absolute man. Being a janitor on this map is also pretty fun too, since you have messes to clean up right from the round start. The chaplain's office has this coffin yeeter, but this time it launches it into the water, so whoever's in there is literally sleeping with the fishes. And the big red S in security, kind of like how the big orange E in engineering on the map mushroom, is also, again, a great touch. Overall, with how great the map's layout is, mixed with the newly added events and features on this map, I think Neon belongs right alongside Nadir as a very solid, well-made ocean map. And so for that, I'm giving it the A tier. Now for the one who started the ocean tread all by itself. Let's go ahead and get into the ocean with the map, well, Ocean. Welcome to the ocean, or Ocean Station. So back in 2018, this was the first deep sea themed map to come out, and ever since then, it's been a staple to Goonstation. One of the first things that happens when you load into Ocean is that you're on a water shuttle and literally being thrown into the map. From there, you'll see Cryo and a nice little radio lab right next to the arrival section. If I'm correct, this is actually the first map to ever include a radio lab in the actual station itself. Okay, now if you zoom out and take a look at the whole map, it's very reminiscent of a donut map, with the way the layout wraps around itself. So we'll go ahead and start on the south side, where one of two janitorial stations are. From there, you'll see the security at the bottom and the command at the top. Moving on from there, you'll find a little small break room, and then cargo and mining right next to it. This map kind of does something similar to Cogmap 3 by separating mining and the rest of engineering, but here it kind of actually makes sense, and the distance isn't too bad. To reach the trench here as a miner, you'll need to head past the sea pods here, and then go through a specific room. Also, I'm not sure if this is just me, but I seem to have a harder time surviving here in the trench here, compared to like Nadir and Neon. Neon is kind of close in terms of trench difficulty, but I feel like this place is just evil. Again, it could just be me getting unlucky. Up above all this, you got the gym, a barber shop, and an arcade. And just above that are the kitchen and bar, followed by hydroponics. The back of Bonnie is also pretty stocked with some extra planners and stuff, which is nice. I also want to point out, for some reason, the bar here always seems to end up being flooded by something. So if you're playing as a bartender, be ready for that glass wall over there to break eventually. I mean, thankfully though, the second janitorial office is close by, so you won't have trouble soaking up the water with stuff and also maybe getting some loose fish along the way. So after you pass up the church here, and then the nerd room here, this is where you're going to find the huge med bay. You even have like this little waiting room area over here, which is neat. And then all the way to the right here, you have the science sector, which half of the science this time is split up. Some of it being on the main station, and the other half being on its own little off station, like Donut 2 did. I will say though, I really do like how you get to the other side of science by just kind of using this garbage chute here, and it just kind of shoots you over. It's really fun stuff, trust me. Alright, so once you go down here, you'll see the rest of engineering, along with like a pod technician area. And then right back of where Arrivals is, you'll see where the escape shuttle spawns. And then that's pretty much the whole loop of Ocean. Ocean brought a lot to the table when it came back in 2018, but I think maps like Nadir and Neon really brought out the full potential of what an ocean-based station could be. That said, I got a lot of respect for Ocean for being the first one to do it though. I mean, while departments like engineering and science feel a little bit scattered, I think the goal was trying to keep things fresh, and honestly, I can respect that. Truthfully, I think since it was the first OG deep sea station map, I gotta put it in S tier for that. Without Ocean, we wouldn't have a Nadir or a Neon, so I think for that reason alone, it's worth putting here in S tier. And alright, so now we move on to our last two maps, which are event maps. So the first one up is Podwars. Alright, so what the hell are we looking at here exactly? Well, let me go ahead and explain. So Podwars is an interesting map because unlike the day-to-day work-focused gameplay loop of an actual station map, Podwars is a strictly PvP game mode where you have to capture control points to win, and it's basically a whole different game. You start off on your faction side, either the Syndicate side or the Nanotracing side, where you build your pods and gear up before heading out to fight for control points. I'll go ahead and show you some key locations where you need to capture. So starting off on the east side, we have the Syndicate HQ for this map. This is where you'll gear up and spawn back in when you eventually get your shit kicked in. Every HQ has its own loadout room and its own pod bay. Near the Syndicate side, we have a little spaceship here with a control point that you need to capture being here. And right across from that, you have what seems to be an abandoned mining station for anyone's use. Then you have the satellite station with a control point here. And then more on the west side now, you have this vending machine asteroid the NT just gets on the side, which I think is pretty funny, thinking of the logistics of why this is even here. And then to the far east, you have the NT HQ itself. Just like the Syndicate HQ, it has its own loadout zone and pod bay area. And if we go ahead and go way back to the middle here, you'll see the center station here. This is basically going to be the most contested point in the whole map, with it being a way bigger little area and a control point being here in the middle. And aside from some jokes hidden in the asteroids here, that's pretty much the whole layout. I haven't played on Podwars that many times, but it really shakes things up when it comes around. It's such a different game mode, and it's fun to see what the devs could pull off with the Goon codebase. If you want to see how Podwars gameplay looks like, there's a video by user FlameArrow57 showing it off. I'll go ahead and link it in the description below. So with all that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and put Podwars in the A tier, for mostly the gameplay it brings with the map and how unique it is to Goonstation. And alright, we're here to our final map, so let's go ahead and tier up Wrestlemap now. This is Wrestlemap, and unfortunately, it's going through something I like to call an identity crisis. So the main thing about this map is it's supposed to be a map where everyone wrestles each other. However, aside from a bunch of wrestling rings scattered around and of course the name itself, it just looks like a really janky station. And from my experience, not many people even wrestle on it, they just kind of do the jobs they're assigned. It's kind of lame. To be fair, I've only played this map one time due to how rarely it gets played anyways, which is another problem I have. But here, let's go ahead and talk about the map itself a bit, and then I'll get to my main issues I have with the map. So when you arrive at the arrivals area, you'll notice a few rooms below, but then you'll see a rainbow colored strip leading to these doorways here. If you follow this path, you'll end up in the main wrestling ring instead of taking the route around the station. But there's a door right here that leads into the main seating area anyways. And I gotta say, this whole place just looks pretty bad. It feels like the wooden floors were just kind of placed randomly, and most of the chairs aren't even facing the main ring in the center, which really just throws off the whole design. The bar and kitchen are fine I guess, but there's something about this main area that just looks rough to me. Behind the kitchen is ranch and botany that is just kind of tucked away back here. Then going down, you'll eventually reach a dead end where mining and cargo areas are located. The entire south side of the map is dedicated to engineering, which even includes its own massive ring that I guess engineers only have access to I guess. This ring even has its own name, being called the Ringularity, and it features some kind of unique thing on it. I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be some kind of special ring, but I honestly have no idea what it actually does. Heading back to the bar and then going left, you'll come across the church, which features a sumo style wrestling ring instead of a usual rope ring. Then just past that is the medical area, which has this odd looking ring with these two cloning tubes in it for some reason. I at least like how the ring looks with its neat looking medical logo in the center. Then a bit more down, you'll see two randomly placed rings for some reason, and then you'll see where science is. Which I'll give this map one thing here. I do really love how over here you have a ring where there's just a monkey machine there, so you could just fight them in the middle of space. Like, this is gaming at its true finest. I never thought I'd ever kick a monkey's ass in the void of space like this before, but here we are. Oh, by the way, if you head back to where security is, you'll find a backroom maintenance hallway, and then right in front of it, there's a red wrestling ring. Funnily enough, this is actually the best viewing ring on the entire station, since the chairs are probably positioned to face the ring. There's even a small bar and a stand nearby where you can sell items and stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about my main issue with this map. It doesn't exactly seem to know what it wants to be. It doesn't fully commit to the idea of being a WWE, AEW style wrestling arena, but it also doesn't stick to being a full functioning station either. So instead it just goes for this mishmash of both, which makes it kind of just feel clunky, and it just feels like the theme was forced to be there. I honestly think if it just sticks to one theme, it could actually be a decent map, especially if it wanted just to be its own station. Just like get rid of some of the rings, redesign a few places, and have the station actually loop with each other, and pretty much, bam, you have a fairly decent map. I know I said earlier that D tier might not even be used, but I may have accidentally lied. Because between the fact that this map rarely gets picked, me not being a fan of the theme, and some players not even interacting with the wrestling concept at all, it just puts it into the D tier territory for me. So yeah, for the first time in this video, and the last time, it's going in D tier. Alright, so this is my final tier list. I think I'm pretty confident on where I place these things. I can see maybe switching a few things here and there if I played more antagonists, but I think that will be in the future. For now though, this is my tier list for all the playable maps on Goonstation as of 2025. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you could leave a like, that would be great as it helps the channel a lot. And please let me know what your personal tier lists are down below. I would love to see different lists. And until the next video, take it easy everyone.